Welcome everyone to our webinar. My name is Gershom Margolis. I'm the founder here at Imperial Advisory. We are a fractional CFO firm, so we work with businesses, typically working for CEOs. We pick up where accounting leaves off, and we basically take a CEO who's been functioning as their own CFO and help them get back to their day job of running the business, and we take over that CFO role on a part-time basis. We also do a variety of other financial consulting. Right now, we're working on 2 or 3 deals, working with investors, looking to basically buy into deals, whether it's existing businesses or new ventures. All right, that's a drop about us. We have this webinar series, and the idea of this webinar series is sometimes it's on financial topics. We may have one on M&A coming up. Stay tuned. But we use this webinar series as a forum to get into some of the other issues that impact our clients and other people in our space. And people being stuck, leadership problems, people not knowing how to grow or not knowing how to let the company grow without them. There's a variety of issues that entrepreneurs and people running businesses have. ELIE will probably give a longer introduction to himself, but ELIE has a background as an entrepreneur, as a sales executive, and now as I think it's a nonprofit founder, and now as an EOS implementer, where he works with business owners who are feeling stuck, and he teaches them this process called EOS. I don't think today's thing is primarily about EOS, but I'll give it a small plug. EOS, as I understand it, is a process for doing things. They have a way that you hire people, a way that you probably fire people, a way that you hold meetings, a way that, a process, a way to do lots of different things. And they have these people who help train you in the process. And ELIE is a coach and a trainer. And without further ado, actually, I got a question that we're going to start off with, and then I'll let me know if you want me to re-ask the question, ELIE. But the question is, how do the 5 leadership abilities help people get unstuck when they feel like they're hitting the ceiling? I think the first question really is, what are the 5 leadership abilities? But I'm going to introduce ELIE, and let me know if you want. You should re-prompt the question, but definitely introduce yourself, and then let's get into this. And if I recall correctly, when we set this up, ELIE said that he wanted this to be very interactive. So if anyone has questions, either jump in or leave a note in the comment box.
Excellent, Gershom. Thank you for having me. Yeah, thank you for having me. Again, my name is ELIE GOLDRING. I'm known as a EOS implementer. So I'll just add to what Gershom said. We help entrepreneurs get unstuck by 3 things: by helping them clarify their vision, bring in the tools of EOS, and hold people accountable. We call that traction. Ultimately, the last of the 3 is the healthy part, where we bring the team together to work cohesively together, fun and a profitable, turn the business into a profitable business if it's not. So with that, let's get into today's topic, and we will answer that question throughout today's topic. That's what the topic is all about. The 5 leadership abilities is one of the things that we teach when we work with the leadership team. And let me go through the 5 specific, and then we'll break out each of them and we'll answer questions as we go. Hopefully people will ask. If not, we'll just continue streaming and give you as much knowledge and resources to be able to get unstuck. So first, let's clarify that these 5 leadership abilities could be utilized in 3 different ways, okay? There are companies that feel stuck, there are departments that are stuck, and then there are people, individuals that are stuck. And these 5 leadership abilities, believe it or not, can help in either of those 3 areas. So what are the 5 leadership abilities? It is as follows. The first one is simplify. The second one is delegate. The third one is to predict. The fourth one is to systemize. And the 5th one is to structure. So if you're able to recognize and spend time in these 5 areas, you will see for yourself that you will get less stuck. When you get stuck, you won't get as stuck as you could have. And sometimes you'll just recognize that you're not going to get as stuck as often because of these 5 leadership abilities. Now, if you are stuck, the beauty is to touch on one of these 5 points and see how to get yourself unstuck. We believe that the wisdom in the room, the leadership team, unique for each of their businesses, can understand and know exactly what it is that they need in order to get unstuck. They just need to do a little bit of digging to understand what is the root cause of them getting stuck. And you could always turn it back to one of these 5 leadership abilities. So with that, let me get a little deeper in with each of these and explain what they are and how to utilize them when you're feeling stuck. So the first one is simplify. With simplify, it's as simple as simplifying. We say less is more. So as simple as you can keep something, that's the beauty of being able to have clarity and stay focused. Less is more in every aspect. If it's in a goal, if it's the amount of people you're looking to get involved in a project, less confusion. Everything that you can do, you could do it in 2 ways. You could do it the complicated way, and you could do it the simplified way. So the first one is to simplify. Less is more. The second one is delegating. Delegating is a beautiful tool to recognize what is your uniqueness, what is it that you're best at, and what is it that you need to delegate to others so that they could be in their uniqueness and they in their sweet spot. If you could recognize that you're doing things that are not what you're best at, then you are creating a havoc in your business and you're holding on to too much. And by not letting go, by not delegating, you are complicating things and you are creating the company to get stuck. So the more you can delegate appropriately, the better off the team will be, the better off the company will be. Any questions so far on the first 2, simplify and delegate?
What happens when you want to delegate, but you don't have the right people to delegate to?
Good. That's when you outsource it to people like yourself. You need to make sure you have the resources to be able to delegate, obviously. And when we get to the structure, we'll talk about a little bit in regards to making sure you have the necessary support to be able to delegate to. And if not, at least start recognizing that there's a need to hire someone to be able to do that work. But for you to say that I'll get it done and I do it the best and I'll get it done fast, that's not the best way how to do it. Teach it to someone once, they'll do it 1,000 times. If you have to do it 1,000 times, you're wasting a lot of time and effort. So,
is there a specific business size when you find that not delegating becomes a major issue? Obviously, the sooner you delegate, the better of the people when you're a 2-person business. So at what point do you have that inflection point where, like,
I think it comes in at every single point, because when you're a solopreneur and you're doing everything yourself, it's like, what do I start delegating? And can I start delegating? Can I afford to delegate it? And then when you're a 10-person organization, the question is everybody delegating? Is everybody doing what they're supposed to be doing? Are we hiring people in the right positions for the right seats in order to be able to grow and in order to be able to get unstuck? So if you want to reflect and recognize, am I delegating? Recognize if you're stuck. If you feel stuck, look back and see if any of them can relate to the fact that you're not delegating and you're not hiring and you're not growing. Then you're probably going to recognize that you're stuck.
Got it. I outsourced bookkeeping when I had one person. Now, lots of people, I recently spoke with the CEO of a $10 million business who's doing the bookkeeping. And I was shocked, but I said, that's not really a high value use of my time. There's other things I could be doing.
Yeah, every entrepreneur, every leadership team should recognize for their unique organization, what it is that's important to delegate out in order for them to stay profitable and to make sure that they are able to stay unstuck. Okay, let's move on. The third one is to predict. And in predicting, we have the two predictions that we're referring to, the short-term predictions and the long-term predictions. The long-term predictions are actually the 90-day goals, okay? We call them rocks. Stephen Covey's analogy of the jug, that the most important things are the rocks. And then you have the 7-day predicting of recognizing what is it that needs to get done this week. People that are time-oriented and well manage their time work very well with predicting the long-term and the short-term and find themselves unstuck and not frustrated due to the fact that they were able to do planning, strategic planning ahead and recognize what's important for this week. What is it that has to get done in the next 90 days? Obviously, you can take that predicting and uniquely form it in your way. People want to predict for 30 days. You can do goals for the year is also a part of the prediction. But the prediction that we're referring to is really having clarity and understanding what is it that needs to be done over the next 90 days and what is it that has to be done in the next 7 days. If you could outline that for every single leader in your organization and for every single employee, people will have clarity. They'll have a sense of understanding and drive to actually want to get done what they need to get done because of that clarity and the responsibility of them owning the task because it was explained to them and it was predicted. So a very helpful tool is to be able to predict properly. And that means sometimes getting into a meeting and getting clarity around what the issues are in order to be able to set yourself up to be able to predict well. The more you predict, the better you are at predicting, the less often you're going to find yourself stuck. There'll be less issues to handle when the fire is burning. Okay, moving along. So that was the third one. The fourth one that we said was to systemize. Now, a leadership team is great. We need to have systems in place. And over here, we're referring to systems. We're talking about those core processes in order to be able to be followed by all employees. Clarity around what the processes are, to be able to know what are the core processes. Something like an HR process, a finance process, an operations process, a customer service process. Here's where we take out all the confusion within the organization and streamline things. Again, it ties back into obviously simplifying, but over here it's about recognizing the core process in regards to what are the most important things and what is it that keeps things simple and documenting it in order to make sure that people have access to it and it's accessible and very easy to follow. Okay, so the more that you could have in the processes and the simple the process could be, the easier it is for people to follow it, the less stuck you're going to get. If people don't know where to look for direction and they have to wait for people, that's very frustrating and keeps on getting people stuck. If they're not trained in the same process, then you have people doing their own thing. So back to the processes, making sure they're documented and that everybody knows how to follow the process in order to keep things extremely simple and keep people from getting stuck. Let's move on to the fifth one. And this one will touch a little bit on the delegating as well. And we spoke about structure. So for us at EOS, the structure is the accountability chart. If you're not familiar with the accountability chart, similar to a org chart or what's familiar out there with an org chart, at EOS, we take a structure first, people second approach. So it's a little bit different. Over here, we have with the accountability chart, the main functions of the company, and then seats within those functions. So let's just simplify it. There are 3 functions in a company. You have the marketing and sales, you have the operations, you have the finance. Within that structure, you have the seats. We need to have clarity and understand how many people do we need in the marketing department and how many people do we need in the operations department? Who's going to report to who? So what level do they interact? And we're able to structure uniquely for our organization. Now, we spoke about delegating. When do we hire? How do we know how to delegate to others? This is where the accountability chart is really, really nice, because you can create what we call an empty seat and recognize that that's the root cause of where a lot of the issues and bottlenecks are happening. That is the most important area of the business that we need to bring in additional resources to be able to get us unstuck, because we keep on hitting the same rut. So if we can review this accountability chart every 30 days, every 90 days, and modify it according to the best structure for the organization, where the organization is heading over the next 6 to 12 months, that will give you a foresight to be able to prepare in order not to get stuck. We don't want to wait for the year end like the P&L to say, oh, we should have done the stuff differently because these are the facts. We want to prepare and be well organized to be able to to be able to achieve everything that we want to achieve within the organization. And we get that by being able to have the structure in place and making sure that we update those structure so that it's not that, oh, it was good 6 months ago, so it's going to ride and it's good for the next 6 months or so. If something happened within the organization, restructure so you know that this is the best structure to get me through the day-to-day, week by week, month by month, and keep you unstuck. With that, as simple as that is the short version and the breakdown of the 5 leadership abilities. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to take them. Willing to go live a little bit here and see who's on LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, give us a shout. Gershon, hopefully you can see the comments and read them out loud, or go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm watching the LinkedIn, no comments there just yet. All right, anyone on the Zoom have any questions, comments, thoughts?
One question here. So with respect to structure, from what I gather in some things I'm involved in, sometimes a person just appears on the scene, a consultant, an advisor, they suddenly join a company, a part-time role, a temporary role. When you say structure, you're trying to say kind of like make sure everyone has the same printout in front of them or PDF file or video training so that they're at least somewhat up to speed. Because, you know, people come on, you know, you have like a moving truck. Sometimes it feels like someone's just grabbing hold, trying to climb on board in the chaos, the natural chaos.
Mike, there is the structure that I'm referring to is what are the necessary seats on the bus. So if we're heading to a destination and we need a bus to get there and we need to have 52 seats, what is the structure in the sense of making sure that we have all 52 seats? What are the roles in each of those seats? So that we can find people that have the skill set to be able to achieve what needs to be done for the organization. So this organization has these functions and seats and roles, regardless if there's a coach involved, regardless who owns it, each owner knows what's best for their organization in regards to the structure that's needed for his organization to grow. So let's say, Gershon said, when do I know when to hire? Well, if your structure right now has 10 seats and you're doing $2 million in sales, and you have, I'm not going to go through each of them, but let's say 2 people in finance, 4 people in operations, 4 people in sales, then if you want to scale to 4 million, you're somewhat going to get 1.5 to 2 times the employee structure, and you're going to add maybe another seat in the finance, another 2 seats in operations, and possibly another seat or 2 in sales. That's the structure that we're referring to. And maybe could pull up a quick PDF over here, see if I could share it in regards to what is it that we use for the accountability chart, what that looks like. Does that clarify? So the structure is a.
So, yeah, no, I think I understand. It's sort of like, so if you have 40 people, each of the 40 people can see where they fit in the overall picture. They understand their job description, or in simple strokes. And then, yeah, it's like a cohesive, it's like a team. And then everyone sees who's who and what's what. And then if a new person joins the team, then the chart is updated in real time, so to speak.
Correct.
And job titles can be adjusted according to growth. Yeah.
Yes, you nailed it. It's exactly what you just said. It's a visual structure with the outline of the functions, the roles, so that there's clear who reports to who, in what department do we need more people to support the execution of that department. And when someone comes, he joins and he takes a seat. Correct.
Ellie, were you going to share a visual?
I don't have it accessible. Let me see. Hold on.
Okay. No big deal.
Any other questions?
Anyone here? Questions, comments?
Another, you're touching on something before. Companies can be stuck, departments can be stuck, individuals can be stuck. If an individual's stuck, so to speak, don't you just move them out of the company? So it doesn't, so the virus doesn't spread, so to speak. Isn't that the most simple, logical way to proceed in business terms?
Well, it depends. I don't want to make a bold statement. I believe that sometimes someone can have a unique skill that they'll do better in a different seat. So move them to another seat. Just because someone is stuck doesn't mean that you have to get rid of them. No, sometimes it means that you need to get them the necessary education, the support, the resources, pair them up with someone else that has that knowledge in order to tap into their uniqueness. I would say it's more of providing the best resources and support to give that person what it is that they need to be able to grow within the company.
I want to piggyback on that. There's something that line that I think I may have heard elsewhere, but I've definitely heard in the EOS context. There's the right person and there's the right seat. And sometimes you can have someone who's a right person, but this might not be the right seat for them. If you think of it like that, they're a good person for the company, but this is the wrong seat. And, sometimes you can train them in, as Ellie's saying, and sometimes you can move them, like Ellie's saying, because they're someone you want. this is just not the right place on the bus for them.
And that is correct. And that goes back to what Mike was saying. When someone feels stuck, do you get rid of him? No. You recognize what that person's strength is, or sometimes get him that resource or help that he needs in order to become knowledgeable, in order to sit in that right seat. He can sit in a different seat in the meantime, short-term, temporary, until he's able to be right person, right seat, correct. And that's why we say that, you know, the right person is all about the right core values and the culture of the organization. And then the right seat is the GWC. I don't want to get into that. Whole thing is to get it, want to have the capacity. But the structure that we're referring to, if you want, I'll share my screen real quick. Tell me if this works. So you can see here real quick, this is a small diagram. Do you see it? So these would be the three functions. These are the three roles. In EOS, we have what's called the integrator. For some is known as the COO. And then sometimes there's someone up on top as the visionary. That's another whole topic for itself. But this just gives you a little bit in regards to that structure and functions. Let me see if I can find another image over here that can show you a little bit more of what it looks like when it's a little bit bigger and have more seats. Here we go. Do you see my screen?
A little small, but yeah. I think we get the idea. We have multiple roles under each of the primary roles.
Correct.
All right, Ellie, I got a question for you. Which of these things, when you see entrepreneurs and you work with a lot of entrepreneurs, which of these is the hardest? And what are some tips for for addressing that? Which of these things, when people come, they're like, oh, obviously. And which of them are people like, how am I supposed to do that?
So I think the best answer to that is, now that I'm working with some of these people for almost 2 years, it's fascinating to see that almost every single time they get unstuck, it draws back to one of these 5 things. If you start reflecting on your own areas of where you get stuck, you would recognize to say, wow, I was stuck because I did not have the right structure. I avoided that factor. I didn't have the right seats laid out. I didn't realize what's needed, or something in my processes weren't documented, weren't being followed, weren't being trained. People have processes. They're just not talked about. They're not updated. Predicting, people just don't predict. They don't get things on their calendar early enough. Their time management is really, really off. It's in every single area. I haven't had 5 entrepreneurs that are all stuck on the simplifying factor and they're just making everything complicated. It's a real combination of everything. When you have a visionary that's sitting in the integrator's seat, he doesn't know how to simplify anything. So everything in that company, to a certain extent, is extremely overcomplicated, and everything just takes longer to get done. So sometimes they're just not profitable by the time they're done, or sometimes they just never get done what they really, really wanted to get done because they lose focus. So that's like in the simplifying, arena, let's call it. Or it's just that it's the delegating, people not letting go. I've seen COOs of companies with 300 employees that still need help with the delegating. They still think they need to do certain things when they have very, very talented people in their team, like a CFO or a director of sales. it's very embarrassing sometimes to feel like you have to delegate it to someone. You know, it can be shameful in the sense that, well, the CEO, the boss, is going to say, I don't get anything done because I'm busy delegating all day. Well, a good COO delegates everything, and knows how to keep those pieces connected. So to answer your question, which one over the other is more? I think you've seen this, you know, in the finance seat a lot. So it's hard to say. Every single individual that I've come across, and the same to leadership as to employees. I've helped just regular employees get unstuck at their jobs by being better predictors, or asking their bosses or their managers better questions in order for them to predict better, so that they're getting better direction because their managers are predicting better. So they're forecasting and understanding, okay, so what's coming up? What needs to get done? What are we doing on our downtime? Are we reflecting and improving? You know, what changed? So I think these are very, 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 very specific and very detailed, to the point where anybody could realize that they're doing one of these 5 things in order to be able to move their business and get ahead.
Got it. Thank you. One observation I have is that the prediction thing sounds very much like something we talk about in, I mean, several of these have their applicability in finance as well, but understanding that what your business did last year is not necessarily what your business is going to do in the next quarter or the next 12 months, and constantly, you know, staying on top of trends, whether those are revenue trends or profitability or accounts receivable, and, you know, not finding out that you have a problem after you have a problem, but tracking so that when you're heading into a problem, you can kind of stem the tide and address it now.
100%. Yep.
Observation I have. All right. Let's see. Anyone else have any questions for ELIE? If not, we will see. Steve, you just showed your face. I don't know if you've got anything. If you have any questions, speak up now or forever hold your peace.
I was just saying, now the questions are free. If you call me after this, I might charge. No. Happy
Can I ask
to answer
a question, given the free cost? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Would you maybe this is more of a software technology kind of question, but it seems to be that the person who builds the software, who works the most to glue all the guts together, they then have to relinquish, they then have to turn it into a business. How does that, could you explain a bit more on how do you delegate things that are hard to, you know, it's hard to explain everything. It's hard to document everything when it's high tech. So could you maybe give some insight into how do you delegate when things are all like it's stuck in one guy's brain or a small team's brain, and then they need to get to the next stages, and they're definitely stuck. They've been stuck for a while.
So I don't know if this answer is going to answer your question. I hope it brings some clarity. Sometimes it's getting the right, obviously it's all about getting the right people in the right seat, but sometimes you need to have the right partner. So if you're a tech guy and you're looking to get the software out there, you may need someone who has the business skill. So that can be a partnership, that can be an employee, however you want to set it up. I'm not going to get into that. But it's still in that delegating. We talk about delegating and elevating. Like I mentioned, that when you delegate, make sure it's to that person's unique ability. Don't just put something onto someone else's plate because you're looking to get it off of your plate. if it's not what that person's strength is, then you're not doing the right thing with the delegating. You're just snowballing it. So uniquely, to each time you pass something on to someone else, make sure you're passing it on to the right person that is elevating you by freeing up your time. You're elevating that person because you're giving them something that is to their unique ability. Even on mute, I know you got it.
Yeah, no, that's that's a good way to say it. And the language, the EOS language, like from the book Traction, the objective is to elevate the leadership team, and then the delegating elevates the sort of the people who are coming on later to the scene. I think I'm learning this this lingo. This is good lingo.
Correct.
It's like learning Aramaic or something. Okay.
Very good.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Ellie. Thank you to the people from our team and to our guests. Thank you all for joining, and thank you especially to our speaker today, Ellie. I know that I learned a lot in terms of putting this whole structure together. And that last point that you made about delegating is only a good idea if you're delegating to the right person. Delegating to the wrong person is not a good solution. So that's a valuable insight. In smaller businesses, you know, I don't know how practical it is. You don't have the entire suite necessarily of all the perfectly right people. But like you said, sometimes outsourcing is an option. You outsource a small sliver. And we definitely do that as well. Anyway, thank you all for joining. Thank you, Ellie. Ellie, do you have any final words? You want to tell people how to get in touch with you? We will be sending this out to whoever Brittany sends it to. I think we sent it to the people who signed up that didn't come, as well as the people who signed up but did come. And we got a whole bunch of people who signed up, at least one who emailed this morning and said he wasn't able to come, but he was going to sign up and hope to get a copy. Anyway, Ellie, any final words? How do people reach you? And then we will sign off.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much for having me on. This is a real honor, and thank you to the audience for spending time and listening. I could be reached at my email address. It's elie.goldring@eosworldwide.com. I'll make sure to put it on the links in the comments. For any questions about EOS, or if you know anyone who would like to go down the journey of implementing EOS. EOS is the entrepreneurial operating system for mid-sized companies, anywhere between 10 and 250 employees, looking to grow, looking to get better at what they do.
All right, Ellie, I'm going to drop your stuff to the comments, to the chat over here, so people can copy that. And if anyone needs that information, again, just email Brittany or myself. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks again. Happy New Year to
Happy New Year to everybody.
You and to the Jewish people on the call, and Happy Jewish New Year to everyone else.
Thank you. Thank you. All the best.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a good day.